The following program is a presentation of Mount Zion Media Ministries.
For those of you that don't know it, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an alpha. Just want to throw that out there. And Dr. Ford, one of my Omega friends said to me, said, you know, the national anthem of the movement was "We Shall Overcome." I said, yeah. He said if Dr. King had been an Omega, that song would have changed to "We Have Overcome," suggesting that an Omega would have done a better job in the movement than an Alpha, but I don't know about that. But what I want to say in this sermon today, I want to ask some of us a very pointed question, and that is, are you ready to overcome? That's what I want to talk about. Are you ready to overcome? And I want to go on record as the children open up this month with Moments in Black History and did an excellent job. And part of the reason we do that is to give them the opportunity to hone their skills, to develop confidence in all that goes into coming up here to do that presentation. Another reason we do it is to instill in them and to us that in spite of what you might hear, as recently as a month, less than a month ago, when a certain congressional district in the Atlanta area was totally dysfunctional and full of crime and poverty, and the congressman needed to stay home and tend to his own business. But in spite of what you hear, there are African Americans who have overcome many of the hurdles that the movement was all about, even to the point when, with the help of non-African Americans and African Americans, an African American in the person of Barack Hussein Obama could become president of these United States of America. But even beyond that, in every city, in every county, all over this country, all over this world, there are African Americans who are making significant contributions, and we don't want to forget that. But at the same time, in the spirit of Dr. King, in the spirit of Christ, none of us can be content with personal success until we work for the success of all people. And when I say that, I mean all people, not just people of color, but we have got to be in a place where we are concerned about all people. See, that's part of what's wrong with our national scene now. There are folk who are concerned about just certain folk. But our umbrella has to be bigger than folk who look like us, walk like us, talk like us. Now, let me shift the focus for a minute. While there are African Americans who've done well, we have to own up to the fact that there's a large segment of the African American community that lags far behind. That in areas of education, in areas of employment, in areas of economics, in areas of building viable communities and neighborhoods, being empowered politically, socially, and in every way, and even spiritually, there are some segments that lag behind. And we just have to be honest. We can travel to any city in America, and you can ride, and you can pretty much tell who lives where just by the landscape of the community. Even in cities where there are no railroad tracks, you know when you cross the track. And the question I pose, how much longer will we allow that to happen? And I am very intentional in the question, how much time will we allow it to happen? Because I submit to you that once you decide you are not going to let that happen anymore, that a change can come. Are you ready to overcome? This text helps me out with that today, and I told you to keep your Bibles open. This text brings us to an encounter that Jesus had with a segment of the community that had not overcome. Jesus came to bring life and abundant life. Jesus came as the Messiah to help folk. But in this text, there's a segment of the community that we need to look at because they had not gotten that overcome message yet. So the Bible says, verse 2, said, in Jerusalem there was a sheep market, a pool, which is called in the Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. There is a particular area. Got that? See it right there? And I'm not going to give you the history of Bethesda and the pool, but I just want you to know there's a particular area. And there's a particular group of people that gather in that area. The next verse. In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. This is a segment of the population who operates not in a lifestyle of ability, but disability. Who operates not in a very functional method, but in a dysfunctional method. And note now who's there. Not empowered folk, but impotent folk. Not blind folk, not sight people who can see, but the blind. Not people who have full function of their bodies, but that word halt means to be afflicted, deformed. The wither, people whose muscles have begun to set in atrophy. They've lost their power. This monogamous group of people have been regulated to one part of the city. Just let that soak in. Keep them all together. There's no diversity in the neighborhood. It's just that group of folk who are living with those disabilities. What is their hope? What is their dream of ever getting out? They've turned their dreams and hopes not in their own effort, not in the efforts of coming along beside people who can help them, but there it is right there. They're waiting for the moving of the water. This is essentially what they're doing. They have put their hopes in a lottery. They put their hopes in a crapshoot. Their hopes is in an insurance policy when somebody dies. Their hope is in a one-time grand slam home run that will bring them out of this place and set them in a place of prosperity and ability. Why do you say that, Pastor? Because the next verse says, for an angel, this is the legend, that a certain season of the year, an angel will come down and stir the water. And out of all of these folk, they had to run to be the first one to jump in the water because only one could be helped at a time. And whoever got in first, they got a chance to get up. Now, some commentators say that the water didn't move but one time a year. And so 365 days you go hoping that that's going to be the day. "365 days I'm at the corner store. Y'all, how y'all know what I was doing? Y'all got a little scratch off too. Not saving a dollar, not trying to improve my marketable job skills, not not trying to do rehabilitation and get myself together, not trying to associate with people, not trying, just scratching off. Just playing the numbers. Just hoping that I be the one time a year to jump in the water. Can I suggest to you that there has to be a better way? That these folk who were by this pool, there were other sources of help, but they put theirs in the legend. And I can imagine the stories of the one who got in and how that story just encouraged them to go jump in. But there were so many options that could have increased their chances. And Jesus stops by to show them the option. But before I tell you what Jesus said to them, I need you to look at something here. Because it might say something to us. I want you to just pause with me and look at that crowd, because there's something wrong with the crowd that the man is in. First of all, go back to what I said earlier. There's no diversity in that crowd. Everybody in the crowd is disabled. And nobody in the crowd is able to help the other person. Can I say to you that if you find yourself at a disadvantage today and you've not been able to overcome certain things, it's really not a good idea to make the crowd that you dedicate yourself to the crowd that's just like you. But you need to find yourself a different crowd to spend some time with. I'm not suggesting that you get the idea that you're better than other folk, but if you want to overcome some stuff, part of it starts with changing the crowd you hang with. If the crowd you hang with is a barrier to your overcoming, you ought to change your crowd. But Pastor Simmons, I like them. They my dogs. We've been down since. Let me tell you something. I don't care if they are your dogs. Get you some new puppies. I don't care how long you've been down. You need to get up. Don't turn on them. Don't hate on them. But you need to get with some other folk. And see, part of the problem with isolating people with the same problem in the same area is that you put them in an area where there's nobody to help. There are no role models. If I live in a neighborhood and for example, and I see that all the men never go to work but hang around the corner, then it's hard for me to see as a boy growing up beyond hanging around the corner and not going to work. If all I see is dysfunction, it becomes normal for me. If I had time, I'd talk about some other stuff, but let me go. That's not the main point. But you know, just check the crowd you're hanging with. And then here's something else that I want you to note. The lame man didn't get to the pool by himself. He and the other folk had somebody to bring them. And it's logical, it's easy to make the assumption that whoever brought him had some kind of capacity. But they left him. How do I know they left him? Because it goes on, Jesus asked the man the question, do you want to be made whole? And he said, well, I do, but you know, every time the water stirred, somebody beat me in, and I don't have anybody to help me in. So whoever helped him get there didn't stay to help him get in. I was just thinking, as I was having this conversation with the Holy Ghost, I wonder how many folk who are in a position because of some elected office, because of some position they're in that gives them the potential to empower people who are beside pools are okay with them laying at the pool, but really don't want to do what needs to be done to help them get out of the pool. I wonder how many people profit from pool people. I wonder if you know that as long as Dougherty County stays and remains one of the poorest counties in America, that federal and state dollars will pour into our area, and people will get rich and rich and richer and richer because you are poor. That people have jobs, good jobs, because you are poor. And if you come out of the poverty you're in, they won't have a job. How many of you know that a large portion of your city, your county, and your school board's budget comes only because you poor? Because I'm poor, not poor, poor. Comes only because we have children out of wedlock. Come only because we engage in irresponsible, illicit sex and contract HIV and AIDS. Come only because we don't have adequate access to health care. I just wonder how many people like dropping us off at the pool and they don't mind helping us get there, but won't help us in the water. Show you, look at verse 7. Let me show you something else, and then we're going to be on our way up out of here. We're going to shout you a little bit if you got an ear to hear. Look at verse 7. It says, the impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water troubled to put me into the pool, but while I'm coming, another steppeth down before me. You notice something else about that crowd? Not only are they, impotent, can't help themselves, but they're selfish. If there's a chance to get out, they're getting out. And I just hope that we can get past that, because I say we, because I see that as a mirror. I see some of us in there. We don't want to see another person get out, but if I can get out, I'm going to take the chance, but I'm going to hate on somebody else that get out. Look at you. Just call you went on off to school, you think you're better than me now, don't you? Who said that? You said that. I treat you the same as I've always treated, but just because you've been to school. Now you won't believe this. You won't believe this. You just won't believe this because the church is supposed to be the place of empowerment, and the pulpit is supposed to be the place of empowerment. But you won't believe this. You don't believe what I'm saying. But I hear people in church say, Pastor Simmons, I can't come to Mount Zion. I said, why you can't come? Mount Zion got educated people. You don't want to come to church with educated people. I said, did you just say? Yeah, I like you, but because you cool, but you got educated people. So you telling me you'd rather be in the midst of ignorance? And I said, first of all, for the fact, everybody at Mount Zion is not educated, but the premise is you only want to be around ignorant folk. What does that make you? And so we got to be careful about this selfishness piece, that law of self-preservation. And sometimes folk would do some crazy stuff. Children, I tell y'all this so that you will know. Old folk hadn't gotten it yet, but maybe you will get into it. before they catch it. There is no loyalty when it comes to being dysfunctional. When it comes to being in this impotent crowd. Here's what I'm talking about. You can hang with folk and do stuff and all that stuff about snitches get stitches, all that craziness. Let me tell you something. When it come down, if they can save themselves, they're going to give you up. If giving you up gets them in the pool to get free, selfishness. Now let me tell you what I want you to get ready to shout about. Listen, come on, come. You know anybody that need to overcome? I need you to take this message back to them. And if you're in here and there's some areas you need to overcome, I need you to listen. Here it is. Here is what we can do. We don't have to wait till once a year. You don't have to put all your hope in the Powerball. You don't have to put your hope in waiting on grandmama to die and get the house and get some furniture. You don't have to put your hope in hoping somebody hit you in the rear end in the car and you don't get hurt and then you get a lawsuit. Just waiting on somebody else to do something for you. Here it is. Here it is. Look at verse 6. It's the shortest verse in the text, but it is the most powerful. Jesus gives him a set of instructions. He said, do you want to be made whole? The man started talking about, this kind of stuff. And Jesus says to him, rise, take up thy bed and walk. Here is the first thing that the text teaches us. When Jesus spoke to the man and his response in verse 6, I don't have anybody. And then Jesus responds in verse number 8. Here is the gist of his response. He didn't address the man's excuses because they don't matter. And so the first thing I want to say to you is if you want to overcome, stop making excuses. Because as believers, we have no legitimate excuses. Jesus shows up and asks the man, do you want to be made whole? Do you want to overcome? And he responds by offering excuses. And Jesus is in essence saying, because I am present, no excuse holds up. So when you get home today, I want you to look in the mirror and every excuse that you've offered, get rid of it. I'm a woman, that's not an excuse. I'm a man, that's not an excuse. I'm a black man in America, not an excuse. Black woman in America, not an excuse. Well, I didn't grow up with my daddy. I admit those are issues related to that, but that's not an excuse. I've been abused. Hear me, I'm not dismissing the impact of that, but that is not an excuse. Well, my parents were not educated. I grew up none of that is a legitimate excuse. I don't have nobody at home to help me with my homework. I don't have a supportive environment. No excuses now. None. And so stop making them today. And don't allow your children to come up with excuses. Because in the presence of God, every excuse is erased by the potential that rests in him. Listen now. Here it is, verse 8. No excuses. And if you got an ear to hear, he says, rise, take up your bed, and walk. And the text says following that the man got up, took up his bed, put it on his shoulder, and began to walk. And he was made whole. But I need you to go a little deeper. He said to the man, rise. Here's a man who's been laying on that bed 38 years. Jesus says, rise. And we see him getting up. But can I tell you this? Before he was able to get up in his body, he had to rise in his mind. If your mind does not rise to a new level. His previous thinking was that I am relegated to this bed 38 years. He hears Jesus say rise, and in his mind he has to process and embrace the idea that it's possible for me to get up. Physically, mentally, I've been here 38 years, but this man said rise, and before he could get up, the mind had to be changed. The mind had to embrace what the body could do, which was brand new. Some of us will never get up because we are afraid to raise our level of thinking. Because if you got bed-laying, paralyzed mentality, you can't get up. If you believe in your mind that that's the best you can do, if you believe in your mind that it's normal for you to be that way, then you will never get up from that place. We just gonna be like this. We can't do no better. It's a lie straight from the pit of hell. Can you raise your thinking? I mean, don't fool me now, but can there be, in church we're like, I want to go to the next level. Just go to the next level in your mind. Get on the elevator, because some of us stuck on the first floor. And our elevators don't go to the top floor. You're living on the bottom when you ought to be on the penthouse in your thinking. And so, but can you really stop thinking with a poverty mentality? Can you really stop thinking with a weak mentality? Can you start thinking like a real man? Like a real woman? Can you start thinking healthy thoughts about yourself and the world that's in you and the unlimited possibility that lie before you because of the presence of Jesus in your life? And not only would there rise in his thinking, but there also had to be a rising of his faith. I heard him, and so now my mind has said something, but not just enough for my mind. I got to have some faith that rises to that level. And we in the church, we are good at talking that faith stuff. We run around here and shout all day. No weapon formed against me will prosper. And as soon as somebody says something to you, you're ready to get your weapon. They that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles, run and not get weary, walk and not faint. Then as soon as something happens after you leave here, you get laid off tomorrow, some news come out, you fall it out, Pastor Simmons, come over here, I can't get up. I'm not picking at you, I'm just trying to paint a picture, make you laugh at yourself.
Thanks for watching. Be blessed and continue walking in the light.